Hello and welcome. Being a woman in a workforce can be tough, but sometimes it can be tough because you as a woman are not being assertive enough or not saying the right things, and perhaps you say the right things but are being viewed as aggressive and assertive and not to your advantage. And there are many things which make up the composition or the fabric of a workplace, which you must perhaps understand better if you're a woman and use it to your advantage and maybe help other people to understand better. Well, someone who's going to help me do that is Nora Denzel, who's on the board of Ericsson, the big telecom company. Nora, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
I know I could talk to you about a lot of things, including switches, telecom switches, but let's talk about women and why, in your mind, and this is something that you've studied closely, they do not actually reach the positions they deserve over time.
Yeah, so women in computing, it's 75% men worldwide and 25% women. And I think that rules set up in the workforce as well as communication styles favor the majority. They just do, and that's how the world works. And so having been and still a woman engineer, I think that there's some things that women do that shoot themselves in the foot in the workplace and kind of stall their career growth. So it's really them not behaving in a manner that's conducive to how things work.
Right. So what would the top three be in your mind?
Well, I think number one is women, their default setting is they're so modest. They don't want to take credit. They feel better giving the credit to others. And so if someone says to you, hey, that's a great job on the project, they'll quickly say, you know, it really wasn't me. It was the team. These other people did the work. I just was there. That's a woman's way of saying, I'm humble, and I'm honored you pointed me out, but I want to share that. I have to tell you, in the workforce, a man would never do that. A man would say, thank you, and can you help me find another position? And so a man will come off as more confident, also accept the praise, and be much more confident about talking about his achievements. The second thing I noticed in my 28 years working as an engineer is men are not afraid to ask. They will ask for anything. Can I have your position? You say, well, you're not ready yet. Can I have lunch with you? Can I help you with this? Can I do this work? A woman won't ask. They somehow feel that their achievements will speak for themselves and that the assignments go to the most worthy person, in fact, not to the person that asked. So for example, I had a man that told me he wanted an international assignment, and when one came up, we sent him, and the woman in my department said, oh my goodness, I'd love one. Where was it posted? So things aren't fair, and so women just need to learn how to ask. And then the third thing is, a lot of times women don't have the self-confidence that a man would have. And so they'll act in an unconfident manner. And so what we teach them is just to learn how to act. Act as if you're confident, and over time you will become confident. Men somehow, their default setting is confident. If there's something, just give you one tiny story, is if a man is asked to do something that he's never done, he'll say, I'll do it. I'm sure I can do it. And if he can't do it, he'll say, that assignment was crazy. That's a dumb assignment. If a woman's asked to do something, she'll say, I'm not sure I can do it. I'll try, but I don't know. I'm not sure I can do it. If she can't do it, she'll think she is dumb. And so that's the difference in the default settings between men and women engineers.
Does this get accentuated in a technical or a technology-intensive environment?
You know, I think it does only because as engineers, we usually are introverts. And I would imagine in a sales and marketing environment where you have to present every day and you have to extol the merits of your product, you start to learn how to sell things and you eventually sell yourself. But in an engineering environment, you know, you just learn to just always tell 100% of the truth, every single detail. So I think it does get accentuated a bit because we're natural introverts.
Right. And how does this affect, and I mean both ways, I mean how does the negative affect what happens or the outcome, and how does the positive, if things come together well, if the women are more more equitable or treated more equitably, or they themselves are far more assertive, as you pointed out, what's the positive outcome?
So the positive outcome is we'd love to see that those that create technology mirror those in the society that use it, meaning it's 50-50. So as I mentioned, it's 75-25. And so the negative outcome is women just don't get promoted. They become discouraged. And 50% of the technical women will drop out of the workforce within 10 years of earning their degree, never to come back again, which is higher than any other industry. So that's the negative outcome when they're not included when they're not exhibiting the right traits and when their traits aren't recognized.
And this is a loss to organizations as well because they're
Yes.
losing people after having invested so many years. And
Exactly. And then a positive outcome, if you look at the CEOs of Yahoo, of IBM, IBM in particular, I used to work there, has huge programs of diversity and inclusion. They have workshops to train us both on what our default settings are and how to change them in different situations. And over time, a woman matriculated up to become the CEO.
Right.
And so they have a much higher population. In fact, it was voted as one of the best places for technical women to work.
Right. So would you say that your own success is an outcome of such efforts, or are you really learning from what you faced and therefore are putting these things into place?
I think it's more of the second. And so I think I had to become a student of mastering the rules because they weren't written and I didn't understand them. And so it becomes your second job is understanding what they are, changing the way you present things, changing your default settings in order to traverse the corporate ladder. Now that I'm successfully retired and on boards, I'm happy to go to conferences such as Grace Hopper with the newer engineers and try to reduce their learning curves so they don't struggle and maybe drop out.
Right. So I heard that, for instance, in many universities in the US, the number of women graduates is actually coming down. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's not a situation you face in countries like India, and there are other problems you face in countries like India. So how do you view this, and what needs to be done?
You are absolutely right. The percentage of computer science graduates that were women peaked probably around 1991 at about 37% were women. And now computer science in general is shrinking, and the women as a percentage is down to 16, 15%. It's huge. One of the biggest deterrents is women aren't exposed to technology or encouraged when early enough. And so what we find is when women see that, young women, and they get excited about it, then they may choose the engineering path and then major in it. We view it as a huge problem in the country because there will be such a shortage of engineers in the future. So even the federal government is aimed at getting more people into STEM, science, engineering, technology, and math, and also getting women there. And it's because if 50% of your population doesn't find STEM attractive, you're never going to have the engineers you need.
Right. So let me ask you the consumer question, which you just hinted at, right? Just half your consumers are women or thereabouts, and the people on the creation side, it's only 25%. So from your own experience, how is this affecting what we see or consume as products?
I think that's a great question. If I look back in history, one of the early engineering teams that was designing cars was all male, and they were making the airbags for the cars to make our cars safer. When it came time to say, where should they deploy and how big are the airbags, they went to the height and weight charts of the average males. And as a result, because they didn't even think about it, men drive cars, I drive a car, there's all men on the team, all men everywhere. And because they did that, the early airbags actually killed women and children.
Right.
And so having had a woman on the team, the discussion just would have been different. She would have said something of, excuse me, but we drive cars also. So there's 1,000 examples of that where the product, just really literally didn't have a woman's voice anywhere. And so what we've found through every study for hundreds of years is the most diverse teams do the best. And so having 50-50 means, even though you think, look, the iPhone's great, you can't even imagine what it would have been had there been a higher percentage of women engineers on the team, because the thought process is so different between men and women, the outcome is actually better.
So, and you do feel that an iPhone is still a very male product?
I wouldn't say very male, and it's actually a great product. But when you say, what are we missing? You can't even imagine what it could become. We also know from technology, patents that are authored by only male teams are cited less than patents that had diverse teams. So obviously, the amount of times your patent is cited is how important the patent is. And we found that when there's women on the team, the patent is cited more. And it's not just because there are women, it just means that diverse teams...
The design reflects the...
Exactly. Right. The first voice recognition systems before Surrey were calibrated to the male voice. Literally no woman's voice was heard. And it failed miserably because women tried to use it, half the population couldn't use it, and no one thought about it on the engineering team. We're definitely convinced in the United States, had Lehman Brothers been Lehman Brothers and sisters, the meltdown wouldn't have happened. Those discussions at the boardroom, as well as what was going on, it would have been different. It just would have been, it's not that women are smarter, but just think of it your own self. You invite a team of men to dinner, it's all women at dinner or it's men and women, the men and women discussion will be much different when it's 50-50.
Right, so I think the prospects seem very encouraging. So no financial meltdown, or at least
Yeah.
maybe saved from a financial meltdown, a better iPhone among other things, and surely something for young women to look forward to. Thank you very much for speaking
You're
with us.
welcome. You're
Thank you.
welcome.